Hi there, everybody. I'm Peyton Smith, your social media producer here at Paizo, and thank you so much for coming back again. The countdown to Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Gen Con's coming really, really close here, and I am here with a very special guest today, sir. It's so nice to meet you.
And, nice to meet you too, Peyton.
And would you like to introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are and what we're here to talk about?
Sure. I'm Stephen Radney-Macfarland. I am the senior designer over here at Paizo, at least for Pathfinder, and we're going to talk today about advancing your character.
So basically, obviously, as you kind of go in through your quest and everything else, there comes a time where you need to pretty much, level up. And it's like, what paths can you take? What pretty much different avenues can you go? So I just got a lot of experience points.
Right.
I've just been killing a lot of goblins, dragons, everything else.
You got 1,000 experience points.
1,000 experience to spend. So would you like to run with me or run down how do I level up in Pathfinder 2nd Edition?
All right, so yeah, you've got your 1,000 experience points from whatever adventure you went through last time. The first thing you do, get rid of all those experience points.
Yes.
They're just gone. But you do get to increase your level by 1. So you were first level, now you're second level. And that is your first step.
Yeah.
Then you have a number of choices to make. But before that, you might want to increase your hit points.
Yeah.
And so every class advances a little bit differently, and the way your class advances as you go up in level is always a little bit different. But the first thing you're always going to want to do is advance your hit points. And you advance your hit points by the number set within the class, and then you add your Constitution modifier to that. So that's nice and easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, then it gets a little bit more complicated.
A little bit more complicated. So, but each class can basically advance differently, though. Like,
yeah, it's based on their own advancement track. Different levels, you gain different things. You gain a group of class features, and the class features could be something set that every member of that class will get. But a lot of times it's going to be feats, either your class feats, or skill feats, or general feats, or ancestry feats, which give you a lot more choices that you get to make and to customize your character as you go up in level.
So basically, so further on, so how many hit points would you pretty much gain every single time you level up?
Well, it depends on your class. So, for instance, we put up this blog that I wrote earlier in the week. Adventure Marches On, where I talk a bit about advancement, and I use, I guess you could say, our pseudo-iconic fighter wizard Caliban as an example. Caliban starts as a fighter, and no matter how he multi-classes, his main class is going to be a fighter, so he's going to get 10 hit points plus his Constitution modifier.
And so further on, as soon as you pretty much increase all your hit points, everything else, so do you have an example for us to kind of show?
Yeah, we can throw Caliban up.
Okay,
like,
so,
at least, at least the visual of him, because he's a pretty cool guy, and you can see some defining traits of the fella. He's got that interesting staff-like maul that he uses. I decided that was a maul because it looks pretty much like it. He's casting the shield cantrip, which is really good if you're a two-handed fighter to be able to cast that. And he's got the nomad background. He's a human with a skilled heritage. So when I wrote that blog, I wrote up this nice third-level version of Caliban that's got all of the choices that he made, and I use that as an example as a fighter who would multi-class in a wizard.
Yes. So further on from there, I'm also interested. No, it's an interesting bug. We have currently when Aaron types commas, it switches my slides. Aaron.
Oh.
And also, so further on from that, I want to switch back here. So pretty much as you kind of get on your current level and your class's level advancements. So is there anything further on from that we have?
Well, I mean, that could be pretty complicated. I think you've got that fighter advancement, at least levels 1 through 5.
There we go. There's your fighter's advancement.
So every single advancement chart kind of gives you what you get at that level. So you've already gone on your first adventure, so let's not worry about the first level stuff. But if we're advancing Caliban to second level, he gets a fighter feat and a skill feat. And just so you know at home, skill feats are a type of general feat that link on to certain skills. And so The fighter feat, when he turns to second level, I use the example that he could have taken a fighter feat that allows him to shove people around, brutal shove, I believe it was called. But instead, I had him take the wizard dedication feat from the wizard multiclassing archetype. And that's what gave him basically his training in Arcana and the use of some cantrips per day, including that nice shield cantrip. Yeah. And so anytime you want to take an archetype, be it multi-class or others down the line, you've got to take that dedication. Yeah. And depending on the archetype, the dedication can be whatever level. But for the multi-classing ones, they are second level. Those are going to be the ones that are in the new Core Rulebook. And so instead of taking that fighter feat, he's like, I'm going to go wizard.
And so basically, I think you have a wizard example for us.
Do we have that one?
I think
maybe.
So.
Yeah.
So I think your wizard example is here.
Yeah, that's my wizard example. That's him at 5th. So we're going to talk a little bit more as we get him at 5th.
All right, that's at level 3.
That's at level 3. So this is the one basically that I used for the example on the blog. We're going to talk a little bit more about Caliban and how he advances further and gets more spellcasting power since he decided to multi-class into the wizard archetype. But we'll do that a little bit later.
Okay. So next up, we'll pretty much gone through the fire advancement stuff. So what is next up, pretty much through the process?
So once you make your choices of those two things, yeah, you're pretty much done, right? You make your choices. You are also going to end up doing the really fun part about it, and that's adjusting all your math. Yeah. So for instance, the wizard dedication makes him trained in Arcana. He's going to click off the trained. All of a sudden, his Arcana goes from really low or somewhat low. He was a pretty smart fighter. To much higher, basically 2 plus his level because it's trained. Yeah. And with that, he's and it also unlocks a whole bunch of things in the skill section that only trained people can use. So that's going to be his main math problem. Usually everything else, as long as it doesn't change somehow, you're just going to increase it by 1. Yeah. Unless you're untrained in it, and then it doesn't change at all. So, and once you go through all your sheet and do all of that adjustment, you're pretty much done, and you're ready to go on your next adventure to earn more experience points. And once you hit 1,000 experience points with there, you are going to be able to level up to 3, and you just go through the whole process over again.
So once you pretty much got to that point, you want to kind of elaborate more on the leveling process down the line.
Well, luckily, there's a lot of little things, and we have a checklist that shows up in the beginning of the book, page 31, I believe. And I think we've got that graphic.
Let's see.
It's not that one. It's not that one.
Not that one.
A character sheet. There we go. The leveling up checklist. And so basically, a lot of this is stuff I've already explained. You increase your level by 1. And you subtract 1,000 experience points. You increase your maximum hit points. You add class features from your class. You select feats indicated from your class advancement. Add spells and spell slots, which is something Caliban got to do because he got to pick a couple of cantrips. And then you increase your proficiency bonuses and adjust the bonuses all throughout the sheet. That's the basic checklist. Every time you level, you're basically gonna follow this on the checklist. If you ever forget, you do that. It's where things change are where what you get at each level. So for instance, if we could go back to that fighter thing, the fighter advancement table. So let's say you've gone through your adventures again, you go to 3rd, you notice there you get bravery, you get a general feat, and you get a skill increase. Bravery is one of those class features that doesn't sort of latch onto the feats, you just get bravery. And bravery makes you an expert at will saving throws, which is nice, especially for fighters. And it also gives you some extra boost when it comes to making fear saving throws as well. The general feats, there's a whole list of general feats. General feats are sort of the feats everybody can take. Skill feats are on that. But then you've got the skill increase, and that's a little bit different.
So one thing you touched on was basically feats itself. So what exactly are feats for Pathfinder 2nd Edition? Even though we all might be familiar with it, but for new people, what are feats in general?
Feats in general are basically abilities that you get to choose about your character.
Yeah.
Right. And so back in 1st edition, we had a bunch of names we had feats. They were more akin to the kind of general feat, anybody can take them.
Yeah.
And then we had a whole bunch of class features that let you choose from lists, which were very popular, from rogue talents down to knack with psychic characters and things like that. For various reasons, sometimes having to do with just clarity, localization, the ability to talk to programmers who make digital tools, but mostly for just clarity, we decided to call all of those feats. So every class has a group of feats.
Speaking of feats, do all classes get feats similar to bravery, or just fighters right now? Kinder Cliver, if I can't even say your name correctly. Kinder's asked.
Well, bravery is a class feature.
Yes.
That is not a feat. That's a lumped-in thing that all fighters get.
Okay.
The fighter feats are things that other people get, or that other are things that fighters get to choose. Yeah. So getting bravery, yeah, that's pretty fighter specific, at least at this point.
Will players be able to purchase bonus feats by finding trainers during downtime?
Probably not, at least not what I've seen. Instead, and you're going to see this in a lot of our preliminary adventures, is some adventures have feats and ways for you to train that are uncommon, which means that you only gain them if you go through that adventure.
Okay, so what's the different types of feats that we have?
So each class has its own feats. So there's fighter feats, there's wizards feats, there's rogue feats, blah 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 blah, all the way down the line. There are general feats and a subcategory of general feats called skill feats, which are basically just general feats with the prerequisite that you have to be at least trained in that skill. And the higher powerful feats, you might have to be expert or legendary or master. Not in that order.
Yeah.
And then you have ancestry feats, and that ties on to your ancestry, and you get to kind of choose the sort of elf or dwarf or goblin you want to be.
And so further on from that, so does each class have their own set of feats, basically?
Yes. And there's sometimes overlap in those feats. So some classes might share feats. A feat might be in both the fighter and the barbarian list, or the sorcerer and the wizard might have very, very similar feats. But you're going to pick the feats from your class, or sometimes when you multi-class, you can get feats from the class that you multi-class into.
And we can take a quick question from the chat here. How is the Warning EXP affected by non-traditional party makeups, aka 6 PCs, 3 PCs, or parties with PCs that are at different levels? I guess basically, like, say for example, you have 5 of them.
Yeah.
And one's level 3, one level's 4, one level's 5. Like, how does experience get distributed to them?
I would say it's the same way that it gets distributed. You're probably going to have to figure out the average party level, because experience is basically relative to the challenge.
Yeah.
And that's the way we're able to do it, where everybody gets 1,000 XP. And so monsters, for instance, unlike P1, don't have a set experience value. Their experience value is based on how the challenge is relative to the adventuring party.
And so does each class have their own set of feats, or does some class?
Well, each class has its own set of feats, but like I said before, sometimes feats will show up in more than one class's list. So, but yeah.
And at every level, do you get anything? Like, do you get a feat, or do you get something else every time you level up? Or?
Every level, you gain at least one feat of some type or another, and you'll gain multiple things as well. So you're always going to be able to make a choice about something when you level up with your character, and a lot of times more than one choice.
So something like general feats, someone can take as they level up as well? Or?
Oh, yeah. So general feats show up all through the progression. Skill feats show up, and skill increases show up all through the progression. Usually the progressions are fairly standard, but like, for instance, the rogue, who's the skillsiest character in the group, they gain skill increases much quicker.
Yeah.
Into a greater degree.
And what about skill feats? Can you tell me something about how skill feats work?
Yeah, so skill feats are a subcategory of general feats. So every feat has a level prerequisite.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be this tall to ride or whatever. But the prerequisites for skill feats also involve your level of training in the skill that it's keyed to. So it might be a first level skill feat, but you have to be trained in it. So, for instance, if you weren't trained in it in that particular skill, you'd have to find a way to get trained in the skill before you could take the skill feat. And then later skill feats not only have the level prerequisite, but it also has you might have to be an expert in that skill, or master in that skill, or legendary in that skill in order to take it.
And so basically, so you can take anything. You can take anything pretty much in skill feat, or anyone can take it, assuming you're trained in it, stuff like that.
Do we want to look at an example?
Sure can.
We got that intimidating prowess, which I decided to have Caliban take at a later level. So if we take a look at that, it's a level 2 feat. The prerequisites are strength 16. He's got an 18, no problem, and an expert in intimidate. So he had to basically make sure that he got that expert level in intimidation before he was able to take this feat. And it's a pretty cool little feat, mostly if you want to bully around people in a situation where you can physically menace the target. When you coerce or demoralize, you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to your intimidation check, and you ignore the penalty for not sharing a language, which is pretty big. And then it gets better if your strength score increases to 20 or higher, which Caliban will probably go down that route. And are a master in intimidation, the bonus increases to +2.
And I assume if you're not trained in any of these feats or whatever, you can't take it.
Oh, no. So we'll back up a little bit. So skills, each skills have a bunch of uses. Some of those uses are untrained. Anybody can do it. You just use your bonus. Of course, your bonus is going to be a bit lower. But then you have a bunch of trained uses for skills as well. And you can only use that aspect if you're trained. In a lot of ways, it's good to see skill feats as kind of unlocks of other uses that are a little bit more specialized. So
anything else about feats, though, that we should definitely cover?
Let's see. No, I think that's the gist of it.
So next up, though, we pretty much have like skills and ability scores. So how do you pretty much advance your ability scores as you go?
Well, ability scores are something that you can advance starting at 5th level. You've spent your boost when you create your character. You've got the core of what that character is, both with their physical and their mental attributes. But of course, you can get better at things. So starting when you hit 5th level, you get 4 boosts, and you can put that on 4 different ability scores. And so we'll take a look at a 5th level Caliban later, where he has made those choices already. One, he puts in strength, right? He's still a fighter. He still wants to be able to hit people hard with his maul. But here's the thing with boosts and going up in level is if your score is 18 or higher, instead of a boost normally gives you a +2, right? It only gives you a +1. So it's got sort of diminishing returns. So Caliban at 5th level, he used to have an 18 strength. Now he has a 19 strength. But he increases other things. He decides to increase his intelligence a little bit more because, he's got that wizard thing going on. So he goes from a 14 to a 16. He decides to shore up his wisdom a little bit because he's sick of having, even with bravery, a lower wisdom save. So that's going to increase by 2. That's what a boost does. 18 or over, +1. 17 or under, +2. You start that at 5th level. You get another 4 boosts at 10th, another 4 boosts at 15th, and another 4 boosts at 20.
Gotcha. And so for ability scores, what are basically skills in Pathfinder 2nd Edition? Like I know we basically have for the larger range of skills, and people who don't know about skills, we like to elaborate on what skills are and how they help you here in Pathfinder.
Sure. Skills are sort of large general categories of, I guess you could say, similar actions and abilities. We have 17 skills in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, not counting the very variable lore skill. You can have all sorts of different sorts of lores. And I think we have you want to put up the skill chart?
Yes.
And we can take a look at that. Right, so those are the skills in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. On the left-hand side, it goes from acrobatics all the way down to stealth. It talks about what ability score it is keyed to, and then it has a list of the untrained ways that you can use that skill, and then, of course, the trained ways that you can use that skill. So skills are basically, sometimes a lot of times you might use a skill in combat. A lot of times you'll use skills out of combat to do various things to interact with the game world is the best way to put it. So acrobatics, you want to be able to basically try to get through an enemy space or walk on a tightrope. Acrobatics, you want to shove somebody. Stealth, you want to sneak. Diplomacy, you want to make friends rather than beat them with your big maul. That's where all of these things come into play. When you start your character, you're going to be trained in a group of skills that you get to pick. Your background is going to contribute to what skills you're trained in. Other things will too. And as you go up in level, you can increase your proficiency in those things. So for instance, that third level where you get a skill boost or a skill increase, what you can do with a skill increase is either you can become trained in a new skill, or at least at that level, you can become expert in a skill that you're already trained in. And as you go up in level, those skill increases will allow you to become master in a skill that you're already expert in, and then legendary in a skill that you're already master at.
So how do you determine how your skill increases?
It's basically based on your own your proficiency in the skill already. Yeah. If you're untrained in it and you want to increase it, you become trained. If you're trained in it and you want to increase it and you're a high enough level to do so, it becomes expert. If you're expert and you want to increase it and you're high enough level, it becomes master. And if you're master and you want to increase it and you're high enough level, it becomes legendary. And then that increases the set proficiency bonus that you have for that skill. So if you're untrained in a thing, whether it be a skill or anything else in the game, you're just going to add your ability modifier, nothing else. That's all you get. If you were trained in a thing, you get to add your level +2, expert level +4, master level +6, legendary level +8.
Chad, I wanted to ask, are there any feats that you're excited to see how the community plays around with?
All of them.
All of them?
No.
Any specific one that you...
The archetype dedication feats and seeing what people gravitate to and what kind of mixes they think are awfully fun. Of course, feats, class feats are so intrinsic to how you want to build your character. And I'm not being just flippant when I say all of them. Feats are the matrix of how you get to differentiate your character from other people. And as somebody who enjoys watching these conversations too, it's going to breed conversations on what is the overpowered combination and whatnot. I'm looking very forward to reading those things as people start fooling around with this as well, and people finding the interesting outliers that they may not consider at first, and then somewhere down the line a light bulb clicks on and they go, oh wait, this is actually really cool.
Yeah. So how does heightened spellcasting work as a multi-class sorcerer?
Well, you're still going to have slots, and so basically you heighten it into a slot that you can take. Now, the blog looked at Caliban, and he's only got cantrips. Cantrips are going to basically increase in the same way that cantrips do. But later on, you are going to open up to other spellcasting feats that will start to give you first level spell slots. So Caliban 5th level multi-class into wizard. He has taken the first one of those, and where's my 5th level guy? And that is called basic wizard spellcasting. Yeah. And all of the spellcasting classes archetype spellcasting archetypes have a version of that, and it basically lets him have first level spell slots and put spells into his spell book. And then later down the line, he can get higher level feats, allow him to get second level spell slots and so on.
Speaking of spells, where do we get our spells from?
As
we level up.
There's a huge honking chapter in the book. It's got a bunch of spells. It starts out with the basic rules for spell casting, including.
Do you need the book to help you out?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we could open it. And I could show you how big.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and give me a demonstration.
So let's see. So if we open up this big honking tome, the spells chapter is a little more than that, about this long. It goes from page 297 to page 415. And at least for now, these are all the spells in the game. We're going to make more. And at the beginning of this nice spells chapter, ooh, sticky. Somebody really likes this book.
That's straight from the warehouse.
That's straight from the, sure. Blame the warehouse. There is a whole chapter on the various spell lists in the game, or it's a section of this chapter. So, and there's a lot of spells, and we started off with Arcane.
So we can angle it just a little. Play with the lighting. There you go. Yeah. Kind of.
Goes Arcane, Divine, Occult, and Primal are the 3 different spell lists that are in this book. And so, based on the class that you take or the choices within the class you take, it decides what spell list you actually choose your spells from.
In which there
Caliban chooses arcane spells because he's a wizard.
I think we've already covered this before, but there's like different traditions like Arcane, Divine, Occult, Primal. And of course, if you're a sorcerer and stuff, you can kind of focus on one of those. You can be a primal sorcerer and stuff like that.
Right. It's based on your bloodline. Let's say you want to be, you do the Fey bloodline. Well, you're going to be choosing from the primal list. The angelic bloodline is going to pick from the divine, and so on and so on and so forth. And
for a wizard, what's restricted to you?
Well, wizards have a pretty healthy spell list. So they got all the bam boom stuff. It's pretty dynamic because the arcane spell list has always been at least one of the most dynamic spell lists out there. It doesn't have as many buffs, and it doesn't have the healing that the divine stuff has. But if you want to throw around some serious magical weight on the battlefield, the arcane spell list is really good.
A couple of people are asking about spontaneous multiclassing, basically. We'll take the first one here. Can someone who's a multi-class and sorcerer spontaneously heighten spells they know, or do they have to take the spells at higher levels?
It depends. There is basically the spontaneous casters have a special way that they can heighten certain spells.
Okay, and someone else also went for heightened spells. And what about spontaneous multiclass? Can we get access to signature spells through multiclassing, or we need to learn the spell on several levels to heighten it? Sorry, it's kind of.
Well, that's a really good question. I haven't even really taken a close look at that. I think there might be a dedication feed for that, but there might not. What other kind of questions? Man, these are very specific, folks. You're gonna get the book in just a little bit.
Well, they want to know now.
They want to know now. I know, right? This, let's see. Let's find the sorcerer really quick.
So as you're doing
a quick look.
Here, as you go ahead and do that, one thing I want to do, as you kind of read up on that, people might be wondering about giveaways today. I didn't kind of cover it because we have a lot to basically kind of cover. So it's multi-classing and stuff like that is something that's very interesting for a lot of people. And I decided to do one kind of lump giveaway today. I'm going to go and give away one poster, one lanyard, and one Falmouth cord all in one thing.
Uh-oh.
So basically, Aaron, if you want to go ahead and start the giveaway for that and everything else. And also Aaron's back here again to help us out with giveaways and stuff like that. So we're going to give all that away to one person for now. Because we have pretty much a large things to go for multi-classing and stuff like that, and I at least want you guys to have time to learn as much as you can. So, if you're ready to go ahead and answer that question that lovely person had?
Yeah, I don't think so. At least not with signature spells. But like I said, we'll come out with more feats. So
yeah, more feats and stuff. Okay, so as we kind of transition on, pretty much past spells and everything else. One of the big things about Pathfinder 2nd Edition is different ways that you can kind of build your character.
Yes.
So, say for example, I want to be a fighter, and all of a sudden I want to go to more celestial magic, or I want to be more primal. I want to go into some spell cast or some spell slinging, or maybe I just want to get something from a completely other class.
Yeah.
So, how does multi-classing work in Pathfinder 2nd Edition?
So multi-classing uses the archetype system, and the archetype system always has a dedication feat, and that's a thing that you can swap out for one of your class feats, and it basically says, I'm going to dedicate to this path for a period of time. That period of time is at least 2 more feats within that archetype before you can dedicate into another archetype. And so you can't just go around picking up dedication feats willy-nilly without pursuing that course for a little bit.
Okay, and does each class have a multi-classing type of archetype or anything?
Yeah, every class has a multi-classing type archetype, and then other archetypes are coming out soon after. So, in the playtest we had the pirate archetype and the cavalier archetype. You're going to see a lot of archetypes, and they all basically work on the same premise. You've decided you're going to branch out beyond your class. You take the dedication. You spend some time in the dedication through taking feats, and then once you're done with that, you can move on to another dedication, or just keep on going with what you want your class to do. You keep
mentioning dedication. What is a dedication? Is it dedication
it's basically a type of feat where you enter into an archetype. You're dedicating to that archetype. And so, for instance, Caliban at 2nd level took his nice wizard's dedication, which is the name of that feat. It's got a certain amount of prereqs, and it also explains that you, in order for you to take another feat of this type, you're going to have to take 2 more feats within the wizard multi-class archetype.
And just to clarify for Captain Jack asking, does that mean you cannot take a level in another class? I don't think he's confused. I don't know if we want to clarify for him.
Oh, so the other thing that you should probably know about multi-classing is you're going to keep on taking levels in Caliban, for example, keeps on taking levels in fighter. He gains bits and pieces of the wizard's the wizard abilities through spellcasting by swapping out his fighter feats for wizard multi-class archetype feats. And so you don't actually take a level of another class. You take bits and pieces of that other class by swapping out your fighter feats for things from that archetype.
So further on for that, so you don't have dedication feats, stuff like that. So if you take a dedication feats, how does that work? So you take 2 feats from that archetype later down the road and further on?
Yes, after you take that first dedication feat, you can, there are various other feats within the archetype. For instance, the spellcasting one that Caliban takes later on at 4th level allows him to cast 1st level spells to graduate beyond just his cantrips that are very useful, but if he wants to start shooting off magic missiles or whatever, he's going to take that second feat. It basically gives him some spells in his spell book and that 1 1st level spell slot, so he can start casting those spells. So at that point, he's taken the dedication feat. He's taken his first feat from that archetype. Once he takes another feat from that archetype, he can decide, I'm going to take a different dedication feat, either from another multi-class archetype or some other kind of archetype, or he can just continue to take on, but he's not going to be able to take another dedication feat until he's taken at least 2 feats from that archetype.
Okay, so further on from that, we'll go ahead and switch over to majority of pretty much Q&A at this point.
Sure.
So, as everyone went on for, unless there's something else about leveling and stuff like that you think we should kind of touch on, something you feel deep and dear to your heart. Actually, we still have to pretty much show you some examples, right?
Yeah, I mean, so when I wrote the blog earlier this week, Adventure Marches On, I made a 3rd level Caliban to sort of use an example for that. Since then, I have made a 5th level Caliban, which we've talked a little bit more about.
Which we will switch over all the way. I think this is your 3rd level Caliban, so if you want to talk more about him and stuff like that.
So, I mean, the blog talked a lot about him, but in this one you get to see a little bit of the choices I made. The fact that he's able to cast a handful of cantrips, but he's still got a +11 attack roll on his maul. His armor class is still pretty good. His hit points, he's definitely a fighter, just flavored with a bit of wizard. He's got a little spell casting power in there. And he's got, as a skill feat, he took Arcane Sense. He's got magical crafting if down the line he wants to start dabbling into the creation of magic items and so on. But still very much a fighter. If we start moving on to the 5th level version, he gets new choices to make. He, at 4th level, instead of taking another fighter feat, he takes basic wizard spellcasting, which gives him his 1st level wizard spells, which is also a lot of fun. At least on his skill feats, he took intimidating prowess instead of deciding to take some other kind of magic sort of thing. And by this time, Caliban's got his first +1 weapon, his +1 maul, which is a nice +16 to his attack roll, which is nice and beefy, doing 1d12 +4 damage on a success, and twice that amount on a double. And it's got the shove trait because he's on his fighter features, he gets fighter weapon mastery. That's a trait for that. So he's got some extra oomph in there. So he can really push people around, throw up a shield spell if he wants, cast magic missile if somebody's too far away. It's pretty versatile. But even then, like, how different is he compared to Caliban, who decided not to multiclass? And that's when I made Caliban version 2, who was just a straight fighter. And this is also at 5th level. And so one of the things you'll notice, he still's got that +16 to attack rolls. He did take Brutus Shove instead of dedicating into Wizard. He's got Knockdown. So while he may take a little bit of a hit because he's a two-handed weapon fighter, he's not going to get that nice shield spell every once in a while. He still deals out a great deal of punishment. And he took Intimidating Glare instead of Magic Sense. So he's probably just your more traditional bully type fighter that brings down a lot of smack and pushes people around the battlefield. But Caliban's core is still a fighter. He's still tough as nails. His 5th level version has a few more hit points, 5 more hit points than his wizard multiclass version. So he's still beefy, tough, and fighter. If I went down this line even more and made Caliban where he started off as a wizard and went into fighter, right, he'd have a lot more spell firepower, but he'd be able to do more damage with weapons, have more of those fighter things in it as well. But the core of him would still be wizard. So in that way, multiclassing isn't an exact split. You're still going to have your main class, and you're going to pepper it with interesting things from the other class that you get to pick and choose. Yeah.
So basically, just to make sure I understand, say for example, I just want to be a fighter. I'm not going to kind of get myself as I kind of go somewhere else for a whole nother path. I can still be able to benefit and have the little bits that I'm wanting.
Right.
And still continue on and still be.
Yeah, in older multi-classing schemes, the biggest problem as you went up in level is if you didn't make sort of really specific choices, you ended up with that split. Yeah. And it ended up like your spell firepower was kind of your fighter, juice was a bit weak, and other characters in the party could really eclipse you. This new multi-classing scheme basically allows you to stay at your core while getting flavors from other classes. And with other archetypes down down the road gives you skills that might expand your build rather than sometimes playing counter to it.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and open majority of the floor now after we've gone through majority of our examples over to the floor to chat. So chat, you can go ahead and start asking us a whole bunch of questions that you've been burning to ask us. And if you have anything for him. And also, I think the winner for the giveaway, was it Pensive Meliferia, was it? Hopefully I said your name right. Congratulations, by the way. I'll be whispering you on Twitch and all that. Because the whisper system on Twitch, be sure you have that open. And for the other winners who have contacted already, be sure to check your whispers if you won previously, because some of you haven't contacted me. So I need to get your stuff and everything, get you your winnings. So we're gonna go for one of the first questions here is any way to climb onto a huge or larger creature, like with a feat or something? I know it's oddly specific.
Yeah,
I don't know if off the top of your head you can answer this question. If you can, we can go to another one.
I mean, yeah, if the GM allows you to do it. I don't know if there's a specific feat that says, hey, that'd be a very kind of like, we might have a climbing feat that gave you a bonus climb, but we wouldn't say, hey, you can climb up on this thing.
Yeah, it's not like a specific feat. You can still do it just normal character actions. And I don't know if you might be the one for this one. How does retraining work? I think someone mentioned that you can retrain your class or something.
Yeah, retraining is basically a downtime activity. As long as you can spend enough downtime and you find a choice that you made that you thought was really cool at second level. And then as you go up in level, you're like, I never use that. It's never been a benefit towards me for me. You can basically spend some time, maybe some resources, and retrain that thing. The biggest thing is you can't retrain it for something that's higher level, right? It's got to have basically that same level requirement and whatnot. But it allows you to basically get rid of things that you thought were cool once, but digging deeper, or a new book comes out and you see something that you like even better, it allows you to swap it out and replace it with something new.
Okay, so one thing I want to have you do, if you want to, because I like to kind of swing it around, would you like to grab one question from chat?
Sure.
Something that you might find just burning to answer that you've always wanted to answer before.
Where is it?
I know, right?
Yeah. So,
and further on from that, I just try to look for a question and everything else. One of the things, like, be sure to ask him as many stuff as you can. Anything about multi-classing, leveling, things like that. Go ahead and give him all that you got.
Yeah. How do you track spells if you multi-class into 2 different spellcasting classes? Well, basically, you gain your spells through those, either the dedication feat or the later spellcasting feat. So you will likely have 2 different lists, or even if you are multi-classing, like and you are using the same dedication, the same list, you're going to have slots over here that are for wizard, and slots over here that are for sorcerer. Probably in a very similar way, if you were familiar with P1, you're basically, here are my wizard spells, here are my sorcerer spells, here are my cleric spells, here are my bard spells, or whatever.
Okay, so are all archetype feats class feats, or is that just a dedication feat?
Dedication feats and the archetype feats are things that you can swap out for your class feat. So you can't swap it out for a general feat, although who knows, we might make archetypes where it specifically says you swap this out for a general feat down the line. In a lot of ways, we're still exploring the fun options of archetypes. But mostly for the multi-classing ones, you swap out the feat, both the dedication feat and the rest of the feats from the archetype, for your class feats.
And Aaron, you can kind of help me out if we can do this one. Can you give us a peek at a few 20th level class feats?
20th level class feats.
Do we have any higher level feats you want to show? What's your favorite one from 20th level?
Well, in fact, we've been talking about Caliban and Fighter, so let's go take a look at Fighter feats, which means I need to go to the right place in the book. So let's see. So 20th level Fighter feats. We have Weapon Supremacy. You thought Weapon Mastery is good. Weapon Supremacy. Your skill with weapons lets you attack swiftly at all times. You're permanently quickened. You can use your extra action only to strike. That's That's what that is. So yeah, there is an example of a 20th level fighter class feat.
And do spell focus feat exists in second edition?
Spell focus, sort of. Your proficiency with spell casting, both attacks and DCs will go up, but that's mostly in your classes. There are other ways to kind of tweak it, but yeah.
Okay, let's go and look for another question here. Let's see.
Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that the DC in your attack is not level of your spell dependent, it's you dependent. And so your lower level spells don't have a lower DC because they're lower level. So in some ways, that alleviated the need for such a blanket as kind of spell focus. A blanket sort of bonus.
I think we covered this one, Kane. As you level, is there an option to use dice rather than fixed hit points, or is that not recommended? Actually, I think in the previous stream, or I think actually with Mark Seifter that we covered, like you can actually just dice roll hit points.
Yeah, you can.
There's the actual section in the book that displays that.
We tend to give you maximum hit points because we like you to stick around. But the fighter gets 10 hit points plus Constitution bonus. Well, that's maximum, so just roll a D10 and add that. If you want to run a grittier campaign and go back to maybe sort of the P1 rigmarole, you could say that you get average hit points, or you can roll it.
And
pretty easy hack.
Yeah, let's see what else we got here. Can you retrain an old feat to get a dedication one?
I'm not positive. I would think so.
Yeah.
As long as it's the same sort of level prerequisites and whatnot. I can take a quick look at retraining. Make sure I'm not full of it.
As you kind of go for it and everything else. Aaron, did you find a question that you like? We'll grab another question from him and everything else. We're going to try to go through as many of your questions as possible. And so you guys know some of your lore questions, everything else I've been noticing. Lore actually is going to be, like the world and everything else is going to be next week on Wednesday, I believe. And if you have any lore questions and stuff like that, or little tidbits about that area, then definitely show up for Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. I didn't say Central this time the first time, so I'm pretty proud about that.
How about the concept of they're asking about that? Does that
the concept of a prestige class, does that still exist?
Yeah, basically it is an archetype that has higher level and often in-world prerequisites.
Yeah.
So, like if you could have an archetype dedication that you can't take until you're 12th level.
Yeah.
Right? That is basically what a prestige class would be in Pathfinder 2nd edition.
Yeah. So just in case you didn't pick up on our microphone, because ours are weird, how many classes can you technically multi-class into, I guess, was the question.
I mean, if you were really dedicated, I don't know if I would suggest this, but probably 9.
Like 9 whole ones, pretty much just pick and choose from?
Sort of, yeah. I think maybe certain classes could do 9, maybe as many as 10. I'm trying to figure out the
Look, if someone ever does make anything like that, I want you to tell us on social media. Like, if you make something that's just absolutely absurd, then just please send it to me. I want to see that type of character. Let's see. Let's grab another question. Did we finally get rid of those pesky gnomes? Not yet, I'm afraid.
No. Why would we do that?
Will Bardic Masterpieces be making a return in Pathfinder 2nd edition in some form?
You're going to have to wait to find out.
Yeah, you're going to have to wait and find out on that one.
It's like asking me, are you guys going to make a gunslinger? Yeah, you're going to have to wait to find out.
I was like, stay tuned. Style feats were great addition to Pathfinder 1. Get on any skill, Will there be either fighter or some archetypes who add class feats to expand upon or hone in on specific weapon fighting styles?
Yes.
Got your answer. So further on from that, let's see. I'm trying to find ones that aren't super, like I know I keep finding ones super duper specific, but there's some of them that doesn't take us 5 years to kind of page turn. and stuff like that. So let's see. Can you produce classes? Can you train? You did that one. For hybrid classes and stuff like that, will they likely show up as archetypes for full classes? That's another stay tuned.
Yeah, I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And I'm definitely not going to talk about projects we're working on that haven't been announced.
Is there a way to build more around a summoner? A class or a build would make this work, I guess. Would you be able to make a summoner type person? Which there are several spells.
Yeah,
there's
like you could make both a sorcerer and a wizard, maybe even or a druid kind of summoner sort of thing. But again, summoner, stay tuned.
What hair product do you use? From Spartans.
Shampoo.
Yeah. Okay, so we're trying to go further on from here, trying to grab even more of your questions, trying to rapidly answer all of them. Let's see here. Trying to find any more. Aaron, did you find one that's interesting?
Well, you better fighter in your spells. Like, how does that progress over the
You're going to reframe his question so they can hear you.
So basically, if you're a fighter multiclassing into wizard, when can you cast significant spells? Well, at second level, you can take the dedication, which allows you to cast cantrips. At fourth level, you can take your first level spells. And as you go up in level, so you're always going to be, you're not going to be able to multi-class fighter into wizard and cast 9th level spells or even 10th level spells. I think it's either 3rd or 4th is the highest level spells that you can get.
Cobalt Crusader asks, I'd love to know what the barbarian multi-classing limitations are on rage. Sorry if this was asked and all that. Are you able to elaborate on that, or?
I'm not quite sure I understand what the question is. The
barbarian multi-classing limitations on range?
Yeah.
If you don't know off the top of your head, then, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, we don't know off the top of our head, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find ones that aren't super specific, fellas.
Yeah. Good luck with this crew. Wow.
Yeah. I see handle animal is missing from the skill list. What has taken its place?
Well, it is actually part of nature, I believe. Am I right about that? Yeah, command an animal is an action in the nature skill.
Good. Yeah. Do you have a favorite mechanic or memory that you worked on so far in 2nd edition?
Oh wow, I get this question a lot, and I'm very proud of the action economy. That's kind of low-hanging fruit, but I can't say it enough. It's all such a blur. I like the way that things fit together in the game. I like the amount of flexibility. I like how rules act the same when they need to act the same and act differently when they don't.
Okay, and further on here, let's see, what multi-class combinations is your favorite and why?
At least right now, it's fighter wizard. I like to have a little bit of tricks in my back pocket and still be able to pound people. Only enemies, of course, and never fellow players. Yeah, but even I haven't really sort of delved into the depths of what you can do with multi-classing. It's fun to figure out those things, and I'm looking forward to how people multi-class and tell us their stories when they really start playing this game in earnest.
And does multi-classing fully hinder you later in like 20th level and like with 20th feats? And is it still able to make a strong character if you decide to multi-class and go all the way up to those higher levels?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that's actually the brilliance of the multi-classing system is it takes away your feat options within your class because you choose to do so, and obviously for reasons that you believe will make a better character, or at least a character that you really want to play. And so I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of buyer's remorse at higher levels with the multi-classing system as it sits.
Is armor still a flat value across all types, assuming you have max decks like in the playtest, or?
I'm not quite sure I understand that.
Oh,
Could you
sorry.
reread that again?
Is armor still a flat value across all types, assuming you have max decks, just like it was in the playtest, or was that addressed?
I'm not quite sure. I understand exactly what they're getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's pretty much.
I think I know what they're doing, but that's kind of some scrubby math. There, you're talking about averages over levels, and yeah, that's. I'm not going to get into that analysis on a stream.
Okay, and so further on, trying to grab a few more questions before we run out of time. Let's see. How many kobolds in the core rulebook? A lot. I'll just say that.
I would say I believe there were. Well, there's. How many kobolds in the core rulebooks? There's a couple of references to kobolds. If you're talking about the bestiary, I believe that there are 4 different kobolds in the bestiary.
Let's see. For armor, do we have positive traits like we had for weapons and playtests, and not only penalties or negative traits?
There are positive traits.
Okay.
Yeah. The chief being armor.
Okay. And what is your favorite art inside the core rulebook, and can you share a close-up on stream?
Oh, we can try to do that. Yeah, sure. Favorite art. Wow.
Well,
it's like you're giving me.
Get your questions in real quick.
Yeah, it's like you're giving me Sophie's choice.
Yeah, I be sure to do @official Paizo at me so I can see your question a lot easier. I
think one of the most dynamic pieces of art, and probably, if not my favorite, one of my favorite, is this fight with some of the iconics and an iron golem that's the beginning of the character or the classes start. I think it really captures the fun of a good role-playing adventure fight.
Okay, I'm trying to find more questions specifically for Pathfinder 2nd Edition and everything else. Aaron, were you able to snag one?
Oh yeah, it's in fact.
You guys didn't hear him.
Yeah.
What changed from the playtest, like feats, and there's numerous changes that came from the playtest and all that.
Numerous changes came from the playtest. I would say I'd be very surprised if you found any feat that was exactly like it was in the playtest. You folks gave us a lot of really fantastic feedback. We took that to heart, made changes and tweaks where needed, threw out stuff that wasn't working or that you really didn't like. And so that's a big part of what the entire team has been doing since we finally hit the button and sent this thing to the printer.
Yeah. And with that, I'll go ahead and for one last question, I'll go ahead and let you do the honors of picking the last question you would like to answer.
All right.
Of course, you can just scroll up and down and everything else as you do it. So while he picks up a question and everything else, this will be the last question we're going to do and everything else. For one, congratulations on the person who won all the stuff today. And we'll be contacting you after the stream, so make sure to have your whispers enabled on Twitch so we can actually get to you and everything else. So,
so what classes, ancestries, backgrounds did you not get to put in the book that you are anxious to do in the future? I've been I'm also strangely partial to Tengu. I'd like to see that one come out really quick. I think there's with the plain touched Azmar's tieflings and such. I think those are really interesting and dynamic. I guess they would be kind of heritages at that point. I'm absolutely fascinated to see what the summoner looks like in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. That's a very cool class and a very challenging class, and if if we had infinite time and infinite resources, I might have fight to put that one in the core rulebook just because it's got some interesting design challenges in it. But yeah, but the good news, kids, is this is going to be the first of many books. So you will get those answers all in the future.
All right, and so with that, we're going to go ahead and start closing things off here. Sir, it was an absolute pleasure to meet you and everything else. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And we'd like to go ahead and promote anything that you may have at all, or
other than
follow you on Twitter, which you can find them on Twitter.
Follow me on Twitter. August 1st, go get your copy of the Pathfinder Core Rulebook and the bestiary and the various other products that are coming out. Play the heck out of it. Tell us how much fun it is. Even give us helpful criticism. I don't need to ask you that. You're going to do it.
Yeah. And also, are you going to Gen Con with us?
I am not going to Gen Con with you.
Not going to Gen Con?
Yeah. In fact, I've announced this. I'm leaving the company in a couple of weeks to work on as a freelancer, not only for Paizo but for other people, and to work on a game I've been working on for the past 5 years called Delve. So.
And I wish you the best of luck with it, man. I'm definitely going to miss you.
Thanks.
And with that, Aaron, thank you so much for being in the background, helping me out with the giveaways and trying to manage things. And thank you, everybody, for being here today.
Thanks,
I greatly appreciate all of you for showing up and everything else. Be sure to be here next week. On Wednesday, we'll be talking pretty much about the world and everything as you know it. So pretty much the world of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And then finally, on Friday, will be the last time we count down with Jason Bowman about game mastering, some monsters, things like that, in which it'll be an absolute blast. So thank you all so much for being here today. I greatly appreciate you all. Seriously, show up on next week. There's some grand surprises that we have for you, and I appreciate you all being here. So thank you for making just another lovely stream for me. Thank you again, Aaron, and we will see you all next time.